Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Tucker Sennett, as well as your lead beat writer for NC State on SI, the official Sports Illustrated coverage of the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Excited to be here for you. Um, Week one, it's here. We are officially in game week. Season kicks off for the Wolfpack on Thursday with that 2024 Military Bowl rematch against East Carolina. ECU coming in with some returning players who I talked about yesterday who could be threatening to the Wolfpack. But I figured today would be a good day to make some bold predictions as we're a few days out from kickoff. And I am going to try to project some statistics for the NC State Wolfpack ahead of the game. I think this is going to be a big offensive performance for this new look NC State offense. I think this is a group that can score points in bunches if things are working. And I think this American Conference defense is probably not quite as ready as it needs to be to keep up with this NC State offense. I think Kurt Roper probably has some tricks ready to go for this game, and they're going to want to score a lot of points. They want to make that Military Bowl loss look as much like a fluke as possible and take back this rivalry. So with that, let's start with the most important guy on the stat sheet, the quarterback, CJ Bailey, back for his sophomore year, ready to show that he is one of the ACC's better quarterbacks. I think he's sort of flown under the radar, and people that know college football know about CJ Bailey. They know about the size, the athleticism, the arm strength. It's all there. He just needs to do it on the field. And I think it starts with this week one game. I have him throwing for about 240 yards, somewhere in that range. I think that's reasonable for him. But I have him throwing three touchdowns. I think, this NC State offense is going to try to throw the ball a little bit more with Bailey confident and an offensive line that looks to be solid in place, and I think they'll be able to. And given the pass catchers that they have, I think this could be in the cards. Bailey's got some bulletin board material wanting to outplay Caden Hauser after some of those comments by former ECU quarterback Holton Ahlers, which I'm sure he saw at some point. And I think, Bailey can play a clean game against this team. He threw for three touchdowns in that Military Bowl game. He he had you know, made an error with that one interception, but I just think he's going to want to prove a point and start the season off strong. It might not happen in the first half. It might take a little bit of time. After watching those week zero games, I could be totally off on this. I might be being too generous because these guys haven't played on in that gauntlet yet this season. So who knows? But that's my call for Bailey. I think he'll get the ball out quick and work to those 240 yards and get in the end zone a couple times. Hollywood Smothers on the ground. I'm expecting a big game just because simply he dominated ECU in that bowl game with over 100 yards. I don't think he quite cracks the 100-yard mark in this game. I think he's in that 90 to 95 range. I do think they'll get him in the end zone, whether that's, with a screen pass from Bailey or on the ground. I think Smothers is just such a dynamic weapon, and he'll be able to really, really do some damage to this ECU defense. I think it's likely he'll break a big one in this game. Don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to any of these because I'm just guessing here. But I think, you know, Smothers is such an explosive back that I think there'll be holes where he can really go to town on this defense. Tight end, Justin Jolie, big year coming up. This is a guy who was underutilized, and that is an understatement a year ago. He did not have five receptions the entire season last year and still led the team in receptions. This is a guy you had. I take that back. He had 5 receptions in the first game of the season against Western Carolina. Nonetheless, this is a guy you have to get the ball to. He's elite. This is a guy that could be in the running for the Mackey Award, the best tight end in college football. And I think offensive coordinator Kurt Roper in his first year calling plays is going to want to show both his boss, Dave Doran, and the Wolfpack fans that Jolie's not just going to be an afterthought in this offense this year. He's going to be a focal point. He's going to be this team's go-to pass catcher. So I have him getting 6 receptions for about 90 yards and a touchdown. I just think he's such a dynamic red zone target, and ECU won't be able to handle the mix of the size and the ball in the air ability. I also think Jolie can be really tough in the open field. So um, I see them forcing the ball to Jolie early to kind of establish the tone with him and just establishing dominance over a team that you should be more physically strong than if you want to compete in a power conference, which I think NC State shouldn't have any excuse in that regard. They should they should outmuscle this team, and Joe Lee will be a big part of that. At wide receiver, I got Noah Rogers having a big day. Um, 3 receptions for about 50 yards and a touchdown. I think he'll do most of his damage on one big one, maybe a little go route down the sideline where they catch that ECU defense sleeping. This kid's fast, and he wants to prove that he's the fastest on the team, and it's not Wesley Grimes. He's got the recruiting background, going to Ohio State for a year. He learned under some elite wide receivers there in Emeka Ibuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he can be a phenomenal receiver for this team, but he's going to have to do it in a game setting where we can actually see it because we hear about how great he is. It didn't really click last year. The quarterback situation was a mess, but it has to happen on the field for me to be more confident in that. But that's what I'm going with for him, just dependent on one big play, really. And then my bonus wide receiver, just to round out the touchdown passes for Bailey. I got freshman slot guy Teddy Hoffman's sneaking in the game for a play, and catching a touchdown pass. Might be short, but I just think this kid. They've raved about him through camp. He's got that chemistry with Bailey going back to South Florida. I think you know, this might be a blowout, and he sneaks in the end zone for a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised. That's my guess with him. I could be totally wrong. He might not even see the field, but if he does, I said it here first. Just taking credit for that in advance. Those are the key players that I did stats for. I'll talk a little bit more about this game in the coming days as we get a little bit closer to it, but I thought that would be a fun exercise ahead of game time. It's right around the corner. And we're going to hear from Dave Doran this week, probably some more players, maybe CJ Bailey, get a little bit more feel of how they are handling going against a team that they lost against in their last game of the season a year ago, and how they feel like they've grown as a team since that ugly fight that ended that game. A lot of players ejected. It was messy, and they've talked about it a lot. And Doran says that they've moved on, but I just think it's hard to move on from a cloud like that over your team. So it'll be interesting to see throughout this week if they address that, if they handle it well during the game. That'll be a storyline to monitor. But when I get into the game predictions, I'll talk a little bit more about how I think this game's going to go. But given my stat predictions, I think you can tell I think this will probably be a win for NC State, and they start the year strong. As always, thanks for tuning in to the NC State Insider Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Tucker Senate. Feel free to follow my personal Twitter account at Senate Tucker, X account that is for, stories, news, updates, video, etc. Also follow the at Wolfpack on SI Twitter account for all of the content posted daily, as well as our YouTube account where these podcasts are posted, sports videos on SI. We have podcasts, press conference film, practice film for all of our affiliates. It's a lot of college teams, a lot of NFL teams, some great stuff going on down in North Carolina with Bill Belichick and our coverage team down there. They do a great job covering that program. So just wanted to shout them out. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with me here. I hope you have a wonderful day.